what we're going to do this evening is just demonstrate the ExaktBox range and what ExaktBoxes can do in your system. Obviously, it's more about their capabilities and how you can use them in your system, how you can upgrade to the different levels, and how it can work with both old and new Linn equipment. But obviously, the key to this is to actually listen to it. And so I encourage you to go to your local dealers and listen to it when times have changed and that is permitted. Go and visit your dealers and listen to this for yourself and hear what Exakt can do in your system. Okay, I think the first thing we'll do is have a little bit of a history lesson. And so if I switch over here, here we have our good old traditional Linn hybrid system. So pair of speakers and your source. Very, very simple. Every hi-fi system in the world kind of resembles this, or some components of it. A simple pair of speakers with a pair of wires going into an amplifier of some description, which is fine. And that's, you know, been a good solution for a long time. So what you've got is the signal coming from the amplifier going into the back of the speakers, and then there's a crossover in each of the speakers, which then allows you to split the lower and upper frequencies to the right driver in the speaker. A conventional system that you are probably all familiar with, and everybody's speakers are started off that way, going way back when. Then, back in the day, Linn realized that this inefficiency in the crossover in the speaker, this splitting between the upper and lower frequencies, could be solved by going active. And that was achieved by fitting cards into the amplifiers. And these are a set of old cards from LK style amplifiers. And these are specific to each model and drive unit of speaker. So this happens to be out of a set of cabers. This is the treble, this is the mid, and this is the bass card drivers. And they were fitted internally into the amp. So you bypass the crossover in the speakers, and you had a filter on each channel and driving each individual driver directly with a specific filter. And so those are the older style cards. And if you took a multi-channel amp like this, rather ancient 4200, you would fit them internally in the amp. So here you can see two of the channels, and if it had active cards in here, they would fit in here and in here. Again, specific cards for the specific speakers that you were driving. So we've looked at the amp end of it. What we'll do now is look at the speaker end of it. If I swap to this camera, here we've got, this is a conventional Magic 140 speaker. And we've got, now this is where it went pear-shaped last time, so I'm slightly nervous getting down here to do this. We've got a conventional pair of speaker cables going into the back of the crossover, and we've got these buzz bars which link each of these four inputs. So this is a four-way speaker: bass, mid, treble, super tweeter. And like all Linn speakers, you can, let me turn this off, so you can take off this buzz bar. So you've now got four individual inputs, and if we unscrew the crossover, I can take out the whole crossover. And here you can see all the electronics in the Linn Magic 140 crossover. As you can see, there are lots of coils and capacitors and inductors, and all of that electronics helps separate the signal to the super tweeter, tweeter, mid and bass, but it's a lot of electronics to drive, and it introduces losses into the system. Like most Linn speakers, the crossovers are designed so you can bypass them. So you've got two sets of cables here and here, and so you can swap these over. So put this cable here and put this cable here, and this jumper move from here to here, and that's how you typically switch these Linn crossovers from an active to a passive. As it happens, this is in an active mode at the moment. So the speaker connectors from the amplifier comes in here and goes straight to the drive unit in the actual speaker rather than going through the crossover. So that's how a standard Magic 140 crossover works. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the what the crossover is doing. An inherent in a crossover, when we take this full bandwidth signal going into the speaker and we separate it, get the full signal into the crossover and then split it into the super tweeter, tweeter, mid and bass frequencies, there's a phase distortion, which is effectively a timing issue. So the sounds from each of those drive units is slightly out of time when it comes to you, and that's inherent in a conventional crossover. And one of the things which Exakt does is it reduces this phase distortion and makes the response linear, and that then makes a clear signal. What we'll do now, now we've had a little bit of the history, we'll look at the ExaktBox range. So I'm just going to put each of the Exakt boxes on the turntable and we can just have a look at the whole range. Okay. And the first one we'll put on is a Climax ExaktBox. It's in the usual solid billet machined solid aluminium case. Styled like the rest of the range. And on the rear, you've got, I'm going to have to put that down because I can't lift. There we go. So over here, we have got exact length inputs. And then you've got the six Exakt outputs along here for each of the individual channels. The Exakt ports are an in and the out, so you can daisy chain. Next up, we have got an accurate ExaktBox. This is an accurate ExaktBox 10. It's in the standard accurate style casing, silver feet, power switch at the front here. So you've got the standard casework. And this comes in two variants. This one is an accurate ExaktBox 10. And again, you have got the Exakt inputs and outputs over here. You've got 10 balanced outputs, and you've also got unbalanced on the RCA outputs there as well. So that is the ExaktBox 10, and the ExaktBox 6, exactly the same, but with 6 outputs. Next, we have this little box here. This is called an ExaktBox sub, and as the name suggests, it's intended for driving bass reinforcement subwoofers, and you can configure either XLR outputs or unbalanced outputs on here. And again, we've got the Exakt links in and out. Next, we have got another accurate product. This is an accurate ExaktBox I. The I stands for integrated. So again, standard accurate style casing, switch at the front, silver feet. obviously they're available in silver or in the black finish. And on the back of this one, this is an 8-channel device, and it's got 8 Exakt channels and 8 power amps built in. So you've got 8 channels of amplification. You also have unbalanced outputs on each channel, so you can, as it were, bypass the internal amp if you wanted to use external amplification. So that is the ExaktBox I, 8 channels. Next, it's not really an ExaktBox, but I will put it in here just for kind of completeness. This is a Linn Select DSM, and it's a modular system. And I've taken the lid off it so you can see the internals. But normally, these blanking spaces are filled with modules, and they can be either dual integrated amplifier or dual line level sources. But internally, where the cards fit in here, this is an Exakt backplane on here. So this can actually operate as an ExaktBox in its own right. So almost like an ExaktBox with up to 6 channels in here. So you could have an Exakt system based on a Select system with 3 modules in, and we've got a system behind us that I'll show, which has got 2 modules driving a pair of kudos speakers in an Exakt manner. So hopefully that's the range. You can see the different products that you can mix and match. You can also link them together. So there is, you could have an ExaktBox 10 for your for one set of speakers. You could use an ExaktBox I for another speakers, and we'll talk about multi-channel applications later. All right, so I think what we will do now, behind me, hopefully you can see this. I've got a couple of systems here. I've got a pair of passive acubarics connected into an accurate DSM, an accurate ExaktBox 10, and I've just got a single power amp just for reference. But we'd need, these are a 5-way speaker, so we'd need 10 channels. So the conventional way to do that would be 2 4200s and a 2200 accurate power amp to get you the 10 channels. And I've also got a pair of Kudos Titan 505s. These are a 2-way speaker, and I've got those being powered in an Exakt way via this Select DSM with 2 modules in the DSM. What we'll do now is, if I share my screen and just go back to, so here we've got config. So all the configuration is done via config. So here we've got our accurate DSM. So if I go in here, I'll just go on the device. So it's a standard accurate DSM. This one happens to have analog outputs on, but you could use the accurate system hub. When an ExaktBox is connected, you get this Exakt page, and this is currently unconfigured. So it's found my ExaktBox, and I just click to configure. And then at this point, I get presented with a list of speakers that I can choose. So the ExaktBox is a fully software configurable product. So unlike the active cards, which were specific to each individual speaker that you purchased, if we change the speakers, all that we do is we load the corresponding filter to go with it. So it means you can change and you can upgrade, and if you change your speakers, then you just reapply a different filter. And hopefully you can see, obviously there's various Linn products, and these go back from, you know, the latest to the oldest. So we've got things like Acubarics, Acudorics, we've got AV5120s, we've got Cabers, we've got Celtics, we've got you name it. It's, you know, original isobarics are on here. You've got a lot of, well, the whole of the Linn historic family. And then we've got, if we scroll down, we will see some other third-party manufacturers. So we've got some Bowers and Wilkins here. We've got some JBL, some KEF blades, KEF references. We've got the full kudos range. So we'll look at the kudoses a bit later, but one of the reasons that they are popular with Linn dealers is because that they do the bypassing of the crossover very elegantly, and they work well with Linn. So that's the full range. So those are the standard filters, but it is possible using design tools that are available. If you've got the, if you have the knowledge, then you can design your own filter. So if you can bypass the crossover on speaker, and you know the acoustics of the crossover and the performance of the drive units, you can create your own filters using this thing called Exakt design, which are the tools that Linn themselves have developed and use in-house when they're generating their own profiles. Okay, so in this case, I am going to find, because we've got some acubarics, I am going to select this drive unit here. So 2 times Linn acubaric, select, and it prompts you for the serial number. And the reason why you need to put the correct serial number, not just one that you've made up, is at this point, it would go off to the cloud and it would get the measured values for this particular speaker. So on the back of each speaker, there'll be a serial number plate. I put in whatever it is, 5678. It then goes off to the cloud and it gets the particular drive specifications for each of the drive units in that particular speaker. So that eliminates any of the manufacturing tolerances, the difference between drive units between any 2 particular speakers. So you get a very precise measurement of your speaker. So I'm just making it up, but you shouldn't. And so we've defined what our speakers are, and then over here we get the option to define what channel it is. Now, obviously in a stereo system, it will be simply a front left and a front right. But as you can see from the other options, it does support multi-channel for using in a surround sound system. So if you have an HDMI board in your Accurate DSM or your Magic DSM or your Climax DSM, it will present you these multi-channel options so that you can drive front, rears, centers, surrounds, etc. So we're doing a stereo system now, so we just define the front left and the front right. And rather helpfully, there's a button up here, connection help, and that will tell you how you should configure your speaker. So it tells, okay, port 1 is going to be the bass on speaker 2, port 1 upper bass, mid-range, tweeter, super tweeter, and then port 6 bass, 7 upper bass, mid-range, tweeter, super tweeter on the other speaker. So it gives you exactly how to configure your particular speaker using that particular ExaktBox. So it's very helpful, because obviously, just as with active cards, what you don't want to do is drive the bass signal into your tweeter. There lies damage and regret. So always make sure and double check that you've got the right channels going to the right drive unit. Okay. So that's how we can define the speakers. We then just apply it to the speakers, and if you look down at the bottom here, it's writing changes to the ExaktBox. And if I change back over here, whenever it's finished now, but it basically will update the device, telling you that it's updating the software on the actual ExaktBox every time you apply it. Question here, can you connect the ExaktBox to non-Linn power amp and monoblocks? And the answer is yes, you can. So you can use third-party amplification of your choice, as long as it satisfies either an XLR in the case of the balanced output in case of the Climax, or balanced or unbalanced in the case of the accurate ExaktBox. You can mix and match, but we'd recommend that it's all the same brand, so that you end up with equality between the levels that the amplifiers are receiving. Other one config. So that just allows us to define the speakers as we see fit. Let me just, I've got some diagrams that I might just share with you now. So that is how, in fact, that's a similar identification of how we would configure, in fact, the Magic 140 speakers, which are a four-way driver. So we've got the tweeter, super tweeter, mid and bass drive units, so a four-way speaker. We've got our accurate DSM connected to the ExaktBox using the Exakt link, which is shown in purple here. And then each of the channels, again, bass, mid, tweeter, super tweeter, and that's then connected into our amplifier. So we're using what looks like two 4200s here. Input for the bass going into the amplifier, and then the conventional speaker cable from the amplifier to the bass input on the speaker. Similarly, the mid going into the input to that amplifier, and that amplifier driving the mid on the speaker. So that's how you would configure physically the speakers. If we look at so that's the conventional ExaktBox 10 in this instance. If I look at the next slide over here, this shows that same system but using the ExaktBox I with the integrated amplifier. So here we've got the ExaktBox and the amplifiers all in one box. So you end up with a very neat integrated system, two-box solution, and again just the straight power amplifiers out to bass, mid, tweeter, super tweeter, bass, mid, tweeter, super tweeter. So Magic ExaktBox I is a great solution for three and four-way speakers, particularly things like Magic 109s, Magic 140s out of the current range, but historically things like Magic Isobarics, Kayleys, Celtics, all those older Linn systems, you can really get a performance uplift by adding an ExaktBox or an ExaktBox I. You can end up with a very powerful system. So Robert's asking, what's the quality of the ExaktBox I power amps? So they are 8 channels of 100 watt power amplification, so not as powerful as the accurate level amps. So on paper, the same quality as the Magic 2100 through 6100 power amps. Different reports of how good they are relatively. One of the last systems I did installed before lockdown was for a customer who had some relatively elderly Magic amps, and the ExaktBox I sounded significantly better than the Magic amps. So you've got to listen to it, see how it sounds in your system. If you go back to my presentation, if I go back to this screen, if we compare these two here, you may have less power in here. You've got less power supplies, but you've also got less interconnects. So you've only got a single Exakt link, and then you've got the speaker cables. On the let's say the conventional one with the power amps, you've got all these additional interconnection cables, and maybe that's an area where loss or inequality comes into it. But I strongly advise you to go and listen to them and compare them. I think ultimately a standard ExaktBox with external amps will always sound better, but the ExaktBox I within the Linn range is quite a hidden product, and it offers great performance and relatively excellent value, particularly if you pair it with the accurate system hub. Is a very powerful combination relatively for your investment. Looked at the ExaktBoxes, we've looked how we configure it with config and how we can allocate the channels. And of course, the thing that we've not really touched on yet is that what Exakt does do, it opens up better space optimization, which is the Linn's room correction software. So with Exakt, you've got much better control of the individual drivers, as well as, so it's the space optimization, which you get on all Linn DSMs. What you get with Exakt is space optimization plus, and that takes your optimization to another level. Hopefully you can see this. So this selects, so these are the modules. Don't try this at home. You obviously should have the lid on it. So we've got two integrated modules here with power amps built in. So that gives us 4 channels, and we're driving these Kudos Titan 505s. The Kudoses have got a really neat way of bypassing the crossover. So in conventional way, you would just, if you had a conventional power amp, you just put it across these 2 terminals here. And they are normally supplied with a series of jumpers in these links here, like so. So we'd have those four jumpers in here, and that would then enable the passive crossover. But if I remove these links, I can then drive directly the speaker in an active or Exakt manner. So let me just try and put it all back in. So this is just a 2-way speaker. So we only require 4 channels to drive the left and right speaker in an Exakt manner. So you end up with a very neat solution with a select DSM. The bigger brother speaker at the back here, the Titan 808, that's a 3-way speaker, so you need 6 channels of amplification to drive those. At the back now, we've got obviously some old cabers, and again, those are perfect for driving with ExaktBoxes. So here we've got our ExaktBox 10, and you can link these devices together. So we've got our Exakt ports here, and you can daisy chain them. So let's just make sure that doesn't fall off. I'll move the camera in a second. Hopefully, let's see whether we can get any more. Okay, so on this interesting stack of equipment, I've got a select DSM, but this could be any, accurate system hub or accurate DSM or Climax DSM. And the Exakt links, which are these RJ45 style connectors, they just take a standard Ethernet type socket. You've got an in and an, well, 2 outs on this one. So I can take my out, and that goes to an input, which looks like this. So that one connects in there. And I can either then go from the other output to this input here, or I can do a daisy chain, and I can go from that output to this input. And so you can quite easily build these up, and you can also connect integrated Exakt speakers. So if you had some Series 5, Series 3, Acubarics, Acudorics, Climax 350 Exakts, they can all connect into the same bus. And it is a a bus topology, so you can daisy chain products, or you can have them as a star topology, so you could go from here to here. So you have a more flexible way that you can interconnect them. We're almost getting towards the end now. What we've discussed so far has been driving a pair of speakers in a fully active mode. So we've been trying to drive each individual element with a separate amplifier channel. So we're eliminating the crossover, and we're getting maximum efficiency, and we're getting phase alignment of the sound coming out of each of the drive units. That's the best way to get the best sound out of a pair of stereo speakers. The ExaktBoxes do also support another mode. If I switch back to the config, let me just minimize that. So if I change the filter, so instead of going for an acubaric filter, if I scroll down the bottom of this list, there is this pass-through filter here. And what this does, instead of driving one pair of speakers, it allows me to drive up to 8 individual speakers. So these will be speakers with their crossovers in them. But what it does do, so if I start adding speakers, so I'll speaker 1, I'm going to choose a Linn speaker. I'm going to choose a pair of acubarics, and I'm going to make that my front left. I'm going to make that my front right. Next, I'm going to put a center channel in, so I'll put an accurate 225 in there. And here I'm going to put, what am I going to put? I'm going to put, let's have a pair of, I don't know, Magic 140s. And that can be my surround left. Random choice here. Surround right. What about a pair of Magic 109s or something? Gone past it. There we go. And that's going to be my rear left. So this is how you can quite easily make a very powerful multi-channel system, particularly if you put the surround processor card in your accurate DSM or Climax DSM. So here I've defined, obviously, I've got my front left and right, my center, my surround left and right, my rear left and right. And I can also, well, I don't know, let's put a rel sub in here. Let's find where rel is. Almost there, there we go, rel. Let's put a nice Gibraltar in there. And that can be a mono subwoofer. All right, so you can see how you can build up a system here and make quite a compelling multi-channel system out of using the ExaktBoxes. You could also, because you can daisy chain the ExaktBoxes or mix and match your an ExaktBoxes together or integrated Exakt speakers, you may, for example, want to have your front, left and right speakers as fully Exakted speakers, so you're getting the best possible stereo solution, and then just drive all the other speakers, your center, your rears, using a single ExaktBox eye, for example. So again, you can build up some very powerful systems by using a combination of a very powerful combination of ExaktBoxes. We've got a couple of questions, which I'll read. Is the Select system available like the Accurate Hub? Yes, it is. So when Select was launched, you had to buy it with modules fitted, but a few months ago they started selling it without modules. So you can use it as a digital front end, either into an ExaktBox or into somebody else's digital system. So we sell key speakers, for example. So you can use a SPDIF out of the Select to drive somebody else's digital system. You can also use the USB output as well. The older style active systems, does that also improve the lag in the crossover? So the lag in the crossover is this phase, I think we're talking about this phase distortion. So inherent in any analog filter where you've got a full bandwidth signal that you're then splitting into individual frequencies relative to the driver, you get this phase distortion as you go up the frequency ranges, and that corresponds to a timing difference in the sound leaving the speaker. So Exakt aligns that, so you get this correct alignment of the signal without any phase delay. So that's one of the big advantages of Exakt over active, as well as being fully software configurable. There are different manufacturers with different speakers. Obviously, the Linn speakers that we looked at, if we go back to this camera, we looked at the crossover for the QDOSes, nice and elegant, very simple. They were designed to have the crossover bypassed. Similarly, I'll take this off. Similarly, the Linn crossovers, all of them were designed with the ability to bypass the crossover by modifying these links, by switching these connector blocks. If you go to some of the third-party manufacturers like Nautilus, like PMC, like KEF, those speakers were never designed by those manufacturers to have their own crossovers bypassed. Some of them are very simple to modify and you can easily do it. Others require significant modification, and there are kits available either from Linn or some third parties who will modify the speaker to bypass the crossover. So yeah, it is out there. So I think hopefully that answers that question. So the question here, to confirm, with Exakt you need a separate mono block for each frequency. You need a separate power amplifier for each channel. So if you've got a three-way speaker, you need 6 channels of amplification to drive that speaker. If you've got an acubaric speaker, they're a 10-way speaker, so five drivers units per speaker, so you need 10 channels of amplification. So you, again, in the Linn range, you would typically do that by 2 4200s and 1 2200 to give you the 10 channels of amplification. If it was a Magic 140, that's a 4-way speaker, so you need 8 channels. So you could use a Magic 42, Magic 4100s, a Magic ExaktBox Eye, or 2 4200s. That kind of how it works. Or if you, I don't know, if you had a pile of Lajunku amps or Cyrus amps or Moon amps, whatever it might be, you just need the correct number of channels of amps. Listen to it. I recommend, with all of this equipment that we've been talking to, go and see your local Linn dealer, or come and see us if you're local to us, and have a listen. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. That's it for now. Please email us any feedback you have, good or bad, and I'd be happy to hear from you. So thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you.